Go ahead.
Hey everyone.
All right. It's okay.
All right,
That's why you keep
let
going.
let me try this again.
You know what
Welcome
I
back
did?
to what?
Sorry.
Obaid's gonna disturb everyone.
You know what I did?
All right, let me do this.
I wrote it down. It was a lot easier that way.
All right, I'm gonna wing it. I got this. All right, welcome back to BenchMop Scrubs. Last week, we talked about the NBA just kicking off right before the holiday season. Now we get a chance to really dive in deep about the NFL season. We've had a lot of fun thus far. Obaid has destroyed me in the fantasy league each of the last 4 years. So I'm really hoping that he's going to bring some insight here that I don't even have. We also got Danielle. It looks like he's camped out in his basement with a giant projector screen behind him. We're going to be watching a movie down there next week. And Yusuf just spent 16 hours praying for the Bears. So we got a lot of great content today. I really want to start off talking about the playoff picture. I know we got a different format this year. It looks like each division is going to have, or each conference is going to have one more team. So, Obaid, do you want to give us a quick rundown of how this season is going to be different than last season?
Well, obviously we're going to have an extra wildcard team now. I assume a lot of teams in the past that didn't make the playoffs are going to be a bit sour about this, but I think it's a great start. I think it's something that should have happened a long time ago. Having that one team having the bye is going to be an extra incentive for all the teams to work a lot harder and play with, I guess, more grit to get to that point. It's going to add an intriguing dynamic, having an extra team, having an extra game in the playoffs. And I think that's going to really help, number one, that viewership. It's going to help the NFL. And it's just going to be way more exciting for the playoffs because you have that extra team. And with the NBA, with the NFL, how it's different than every other league is it's one game. That's all. And anything can happen in one game.
Win or go home.
Exactly. So there might be at some point in the next few years where a 7 seed might win the Super Bowl. Who knows? And that's going to be absolutely crazy. Absolutely crazy.
Yeah, that's going to be wild. I'm really excited to see what's going to happen. And so, Yusuf, I know you've been making dua for the Bears. Let's kick it off there because I know Danielle's been wanting to talk about Chicago sports all week. So let's kick it off with the Bears.
Yeah, I think when you alluded to the fact that this season is a lot different from last year, especially having that one extra playoff spot, me and Danielle, being Chicago Bears fans, are pretty thankful for that format change because it gives an opportunity for the Chicago Bears team to actually sneak into the playoffs. This season for the Chicago Bears has been wild, man. I almost think it was 3 seasons in one because you had the Bears start off 5-1 and then they lost like 6 straight and now they're back. It seems like they're clicking on all cylinders. Their defense is struggling now, but Mitchell Trubisky seems to have found his groove. And ultimately with the NFL, it comes down to who has more of that drive, more of that consistency towards the end of the season, which makes me a little bit more hopeful for my Chicago Bears.
And just to confirm, you picked Mitch to be MVP last year, right?
Bro.
Pretty sure that's exactly what happened.
That is not what happened. I was a Nick Foles guy.
For the record, he said that Mitch Trubisky is better than both Deshaun Watson and Patrick Mahomes. We have screenshots we can share. Dude. So I'm just letting you guys know.
Fake news, fraud.
We're going to be posting them on our Instagram account.
Recount. This is not true.
But you actually brought up a lot of great points. I do agree with you. With the Bears, it was a lot of ups and downs. When Mitch got benched at the beginning of the season, Foles took over, and they had, I think it was the big game down in New Orleans that they beat the Saints. Am I remembering that correctly?
No, it was
the Falcons.
The Falcons.
Yeah,
that's what I was thinking about. And they had a big win there, and I really thought Foles was going to carry the team with some great leadership. But then he got hurt. Mitch is back, and to be honest, the last game he played very well. Danielle, I'd love to hear your thoughts on that. Or Yo-Yo.
Yeah, well, I just want to also say, I'll be honest, man. When the Bears were 5-1, there was a little bit of skepticism, especially in Chicago, where it was like, well, are the Chicago Bears really that good? And they kind of exposed themselves in the following 6 games, right? Everyone in Chicago knew where their weaknesses were, where the holes were in their offense. But I'll be honest, these last 2 games have brought a little bit of optimism back into this season. I went from a guy who just kind of wanted, them to pretty much lose so that we would have a new front office, new coach, to, hey, you know what? Wait a minute. Let's give these guys a shot and see where they can take us. I don't know, Danielle. What do you think?
I just want to chime in real quick. I remember when they were 5-1, or maybe they were 5-2, and they played the Rams. Can you remind me what you told Usman, our number one Rams fan, leading up to that game, Yusuf?
I don't recall.
Oh, okay. We'll just leave it at that. Go ahead, Danielle.
Being a Bears fan, it's a roller coaster. As Yusuf can attest to, every game is heartbreaking, or you're always on the edge of your seat. And it's been a tough year for us Bears fans. Like Yusuf mentioned, we started off so great. We were thinking our offense is going to get better. If anything, we were struggling and we were hoping to kind of get better and go deep in the playoffs. And the last couple of games kind of, has brought our Bears fans, back to, where we're like, hey, we can maybe hit the playoffs again. But it's also like that tease where we don't get too bad, where we kind of fall off, but we're always there. Like, yeah, we're Bears fans that I think we can go deep in the playoffs. And that's just the mentality all Bears fans have. I know Bate hates that mentality about the Chicago Bears fans, but that's just what we've had. I've been impressed with Trubisky actually in the past couple of games. And me and Yusuf disagreed about this when the season kicked off about, who should start. And Yusuf really wanted, Nick Foles to start. And I thought, let's give Trubisky the try and see how he does. And, initially it looked like, maybe Foles, when he came into the Falcons game, that, he was going to be a savior for the Bears team, for the offense, and kind of catapult us to, a deep run in the playoffs. But, I was just looking at the stats. He actually, if you, just kind of compare the stats between Trubisky and Foles, they've both played 7 games. And just reading the stats, Trubisky, 1,500 yards, 14 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, 94.8 rating. Bears are 5-2 in those games that he started. Foles, 1,800, 10 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. Bears are 2-5 in those games. I agree that the teams that Foles played were tougher, but there's one game that we can kind of see the difference between Foles and Trubisky. They both played the Vikings within a 4-game span. Foles led his team to score only 13 points, while Trubisky led his team to score 33 points.
But I think a huge part of that was David Montgomery, bro.
I agree, but it's also, that's also Trubisky. It's a both. I think it's both sides, right? You can't have Trubisky succeed without Montgomery, but you also can't have Montgomery succeed without Trubisky, in my opinion.
Yeah, but well, I think.
Can I chime in
real quick? I just think.
Go ahead, Yusuf.
I just think one thing is, especially for like Mitchell Trubisky and Nick Foles, you got to establish a run game for them to get comfortable in the pocket and be able to find guys that are open. Nick Foles, when he was playing, man, we did not have a run game. It was just completely atrocious. David Montgomery was actually out a game or two, so we had Cordero Patterson being our running back. That's really not a fair assessment for Nick Foles, to be honest. He did make mistakes and stuff. I'm not trying to take anything away from that. But, we have to kind of make sure that we're looking at things from a fair point of view.
So who do you think he's had a better season this year? Who would you stick with? Would you stick with Trubisky,
I'd stick with the hot hand. Hot hand, Mitchell Trubisky. And I don't know if there's still that big of a difference between those two. You know what I mean? I just feel like if Nick Foles had a running game that Mitchell Trubisky has the privilege of having right now, things would be a little bit different. You know what I mean?
Here's the thing, Yusuf. I am I'm unbiased third party. All right. I don't care about the Chicago Bears. I only do because you guys do. Let me tell you from my fair assessment what I've seen. There was nobody that talked more crap about Trubisky than me. But for this team, Nick Foles is a better quarterback overall. That is not a question. But for this team, Mitch Trubisky should be their quarterback. I'll tell you a couple
the
of reasons
offensive
why.
line.
You're saying the Bears need to have the crappier quarterback on the field.
The only reason why he works well with them is because when he is on, they rush for more yardage because he brings the element of having mobility where Nick Foles does not have that. So the defense has to respect the rushing ability of the quarterback. We know Nick Foles doesn't have that rushing ability. And even so, Trubisky, as he doesn't make better decisions than Nick Foles. He's not the more accurate quarterback, but it gives him more options because you have a running game, method to this, because with Foles you don't have that now, and that helps open up the passing game as well. You don't have to be as accurate when the receiver is wide open. When you can play action, when you give your coaching more opportunity, it gives the offensive line more of an opportunity, which is why when Nick Foles was there, he was I think second or third highest rated, I guess, quarterback that was sacked in the NFL. Trubisky is not sacked at a higher rate. I would take losing a couple yards over getting sacked at least so many times because it affects the quarterback's psyche, it affects the offensive line psyche, and it diminishes trust between the players, especially the wide receivers and the quarterback. So for this team, Trubisky should be the quarterback going forward and even next year. I would be very surprised next year that Foles is on this team again. I would be very surprised. I think Mitchell Trubisky should be re-signed. You know why? Because I don't think there's anybody right now that's better than him that can help this team. Unless somehow Matt Ryan or Matt Stafford decide to join free agency or get traded, sure. But for this team, Trubisky is the best option. And no rookie's going to come in and be magical, especially with the quarterback class. You have Justin Fields, you have Trevor Lawrence. They're going 1 and 2. Chicago's not going to have those picks. So they're going to have to stick with him, write him out, whatever. Now, if he's going to demand Patrick Mahomes money, get out of here. Get out. But, hopefully
pay him at that point.
But
give him $500 million.
I just feel like just because that's the option doesn't mean it's the best option, right? Like the Bears are in this position willingly. Mitchell Trubisky is probably their best option going forward right now. But I mean, like you said, if a Matt Ryan is available or a Dak Prescott is available, man, I wouldn't hesitate for a second to pick those guys up. Because, I think a lot of the times, and I'm guilty of this too, we get caught up in short-term memory and what have you done for me lately, right? So Mitchell Trubisky's had these 2 good games, but
against really bad teams, by the way.
Exactly.
With terrible defenses.
That's what I'm saying.
Just keep in mind that.
Right, right. And we forget about what this season started off like. He got hot in the fourth quarters of a couple of games, but that Atlanta game was atrocious. Our measuring stick will be what he does against the Green Bay Packers in that final game of the season. That, to me, will show me what Mitchell Trubisky is about, and that will answer a lot of questions going into next year, man.
I disagree. That's not a fair assessment. So. That's not a fair assessment.
Why? That's the team you're going to have to beat to get good.
Just because you're playing a division rival, they lost to the Lions. They lost to the Vikings.
No,
they've already lost to every single division.
I know,
opponent. So it doesn't.
No, but that's what I'm saying. I'm saying that's your measuring stick, though. When you're saying Mitchell Trubisky is a decent quarterback or a good quarterback, well, let's see what he does against the Packers. That'll tell me.
Well, I'm sorry to say, Packers have a terrible defense. They're not going to do much. If anything, the measuring stick for the Chicago Bears against the Packers is how well their defense plays, because Aaron Rodgers shred them apart last game. He absolutely annihilated them. Yeah. That has nothing to do with Mitchell Trubisky. He can throw a touchdown every play, and they're still probably going to lose because how efficient Aaron Rodgers is going to be. That's the difference. I don't think that's a fair assessment because Okay,
I'm talking about the Chicago Bears in general. Sure. Like them Bears beating the Bears.
The
Packers.
What's their record, guys? What's their record?
7-7.
Okay. Out of the 7 losses that they've had, 5 of the 7 losses have been with 1 possession. So within under 8 points, which is a pretty good deal. They could be, theoretically, if a ball bounced correctly or incorrectly for the other team, they could be 11-2. Or they could.
You're talking about the Bears?
2. Yeah. 5 of their 7 losses have been under 8 points, one possession. That's what it is. The 2 losses that they've got blown out were against the Packers and against the Rams, both on the road, both against probably Super Bowl contending teams. So again, from a third party perspective, I give them credit. And again, with the Mitch Trubisky versus the Foles debate, Foles played a lot more difficult teams. Now, could Mitch Trubisky have come in and beat, the Lions, or if they played the Colts at home? I know they lost to the Saints in overtime. Could they have won that game? Sure. Could they have beaten the Titans? Maybe. Could they have beaten the Vikings in the first game at home? Sure. A lot of things are if, ands, or buts, but it's a holistic thing. I don't think you can just throw it on the quarterback. There's the coaching. The coaching is a problem for sure. It's gotten a lot better from what I can see. It's gotten a lot better, but coaching is still an issue. The running game is an issue. The offensive.
A couple quick
line
things
is an
before
issue.
I hand it over to Yusuf. Can I chime in a couple quick things?
Yeah.
So I think you guys have brought up a lot of great points. I think when Mitch is in the lineup, the coaching actually has more of a dedication to the run. I know Montgomery was out for a while, but every time I've seen Mitch play, I would say the snap count between passing and running is closer to 50-50. When Foles were playing, it was a lot more pass heavy. And obviously that's due to injuries, that's due to personnel, things like that. I know we did hear from Obaid, like you said, the unbiased third party, that the Bears should go ahead with Mitchell Trubisky going into next year. I would love to hear your feedback on that. Yusuf, I just want to clarify, if Mitch comes out week 17, wins against the Packers, are you extending him next year, or are you trying to get a Dak Prescott or somebody else in the offseason?
I'm trying to get a Dak Prescott in the offseason, because that's what I was trying to say is the final game with the Bears and the Packers might really not have much to play for, if they've already got their first seed set, which kind of helps. And, we'll talk about this later because the Bears play the Jaguars, and I think the Bears will beat them. And then if the Packers really don't play to their, highest potential, I mean, you're talking about the Bears maybe going 9-7 and sneaking into the playoffs. But ultimately, at the end of the day, I think, we've seen Mitch. He's a good quarterback at times. He's just inconsistent at times. I rather, with the frustrations at the quarterback position as a Chicago Bears fan that we've seen for years, with Jay Cutler probably being the best quarterback that we've seen, at least in my lifetime. If a Dak Prescott, Matt Ryan is available, man, I do not hesitate to get them.
See, all I got to say about that is, what about Sexy Rexy? He took us to the Super Bowl.
You got to have the money to get him also, I think.
See, one thing is the Bears are.
You find that money, Daniel.
Notoriously pretty cheap with it when it comes to those things. I don't think they will pay. Plus, honestly, if I was Dak Prescott, I wouldn't want to come to the Bears. Who am I going to throw to?
I don't think he's coming.
Allen Robinson, who's a great wide receiver, sure, but Darnell Mooney, Cordell Patterson versus CeeDee Lamb, Amari Cooper, Michael Gallup, Dalton Schultz, Ezekiel Elliott.
Obaid, how are the Cowboys? How have they been with that talent for the last couple of years?
That's not the point.
No, it is. It is because why would Dak Prescott want to stay in a Dallas Cowboys franchise that has just not produced for the last couple of years versus try to go to a team that actually has an established defense and can actually maybe be able to give him the pieces and surround him around talent that can get him to the postseason? I mean, like a fresh start type thing.
Okay,
because the Cowboys are just
number one, the weather. Number one, I'm playing. Number two, I'm playing Aaron Rodgers twice a year. Don't want that. Number three, being in the NFC East, I'm in the weakest division in football, so I have a better likelihood of winning the division. If Dak Prescott was not injured, they would be probably. I'm not going to say probably. They would have a better chance of winning the division than they do right now with Andy Dalton. That's all I'm saying. And there has been a lot of changes within the Cowboys, even during the year, and I think they're getting better. If they had Dak Prescott, they would be winning the division. I can confidently say that.
And how far did they go in the playoffs?
What's that? What do you mean?
How far would they go in the playoffs if they made the postseason?
I mean, with when you talk about playoffs with Drew Brees, Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson, Tom Brady, there probably not that far, but nonetheless, but even against even on the Chicago Bears, he wouldn't go that far. You have see, it's a false equivalency when you're saying that. The talent level on that offense has enabled Dak Prescott to be a top 10 quarterback in the league, right? With that talent, with those stats, no matter how bad his team's been doing, he's been doing dynamite. Him being that good on the Cowboys has earned him the right to be basically almost getting $35 to $40 million a year. You're not going to have that on the Chicago Bears. What talent do you have on the Bears?
Can't afford that.
There is the Cowboys' third wide receiver is probably on the same level as the best wide receiver on the Bears.
I think Robinson's better than CeeDee Lamb or Gallup.
I don't know.
You're dropping some interesting items, Obed.
But I mean,
I'm wondering if Allen Robinson stays if they find out, that Dak.
I don't think they're going to pay him.
Prescott
if I'm Allen Robinson, I'm not staying. Because okay, think about this. Look at one player in the NFL right now, Stephon Diggs. Look at his career. He was a great receiver for the Vikings when Case Keenum was there. Kirk Cousins comes in, gets all that money. Totally undeserving, by the way, but gets all that money. His stats go for crap. He's not doing great. He goes to the Buffalo Bills, right? A rejuvenated franchise, a great top 10 quarterback with a phenomenal arm. And look at him now. He's the only 100 catch receiver in the NFL. And Yusuf, you have him on your fantasy team. He does great for you.
Oh yeah, I know,
week.
and that's why I drafted him. Stephon Diggs is the man, bro.
So think of it from that standpoint.
But think about a Dak Prescott Allen Robinson combo, bro.
Right.
You can't pay both though. I think that's what you're struggling to understand.
But I'm saying like we're diagnosing the problem with the Chicago Bears, but we are not offering solutions.
Dak Prescott
is not the solution moving forward. I'm talking about a consistently good team that can make the playoffs year in and year out. The Bears have gone to the playoffs like twice since 2006.
Oh, so a consistently good playoff team like the Chicago Bears. That's where he should go. Dak
No,
Prescott?
I'm saying that I'm trying to get the Chicago Bears to be a consistently good football team that consistently goes to the postseason. Mitchell Trubisky is not the answer for that. Unfortunately, he's a good guy.
I'm still not saying he's the answer.
But I'm saying you're diagnosing the problem and you're not offering a solution. That's
your
what I'm
expectations versus reality is very blurred.
Daniel is raising his hand. For the love of God, can we let the man speak?
Go ahead, Daniel.
I mean, Yusuf, I agree with you. The last 10 years or so, even more, have been atrocious for the Bears. And I think the biggest reason is the management, right? I think it's just a repeat process, right? We have Ryan Pace, who's been terrible with, the picks. And the trades that he's made, as well as the quarterbacks he's brought in, as well as with this Trubisky pick, and then obviously the second after that is Nagy. In my opinion, I feel like Nagy's a great guy, good, for the media. I think he's a great culture setter, but I don't think he's a good coach. And he's terrible when it comes down to games that are within the reach. Like Obaid mentioned, we had 8 games that we were right there, and I think if we had a different coach that was better, I think we would have won 1 or 2 of those games. Just his play calling at the end of the games, I think, is atrocious. Throwing the ball third down when there's like 2 minutes left instead of running it. These are terrible calls that he tells himself.
Those are Madden plays. Let's be real.
I agree, Ibrahim. I feel like Nagy is the type of coach that's playing Madden. Like, he does not care about run. My team just ran a 10-yard run. Let's go ahead and throw it. That's too boring. I think that's how he plays football. I think he does really crazy plays which don't work, but he keeps trying them. It's really atrocious. So I feel like for the Bears to succeed, it's not going to happen right away. It's going to be a 2 to 3 or 2 to 5 year plan. I think what they need to do is fix the management.
2 to 5 years.
No, but see,
you're not looking into
problem,
right
Daniel.
away.
You have a solid defense that's getting older. Like that, they don't have time to rebuild. That's what I'm saying. Is the Bears are? I get the money issue, right? But I'm saying is the Bears are in a better position to win with like a guy like Dak Prescott or a Matt Ryan over Mitchell Trubisky. That's all I'm saying. You got Montgomery, who's an established running back. You know what I mean? So this is not the time to necessarily rebuild.
I'm not saying
you can help it, if that makes sense.
Matt Ryan is a better quarterback than Mitchell Trubisky, of course.
I agree.
That's what I'm saying. So if they're available,
one question: How's that going to get any
Danielle,
better?
you have to raise your hand again if you want to.
Yeah.
How's that going to make any difference if there's no offensive line? It's Danielle, what you're saying, Danielle, is the same thing I'm trying to say, but in a different way. You're saying the coaches. I'm saying it's everything. It's a little bit of everything. You cannot put an emphasis. If you bring in Matt Stafford or Matt Ryan with a Matt Nagy as a coach, I don't think there's going to be that significant of a difference. I'm not saying that it's not going to be any difference, but I agree. Even if you bring in Dak Prescott, but the defense is getting older, you're not having any playmakers. And what Dak Prescott are we getting? Dude's ankle was almost ripped off. Also,
that's okay. I trust him to come back to how he was. But
and plus,
forget the Dak Prescott thing. I think ultimately the thing is, if there's a quarterback like him, like Matt Ryan, Matt Stafford, any of those guys that is available, I wouldn't shy if I was Bears management to sign him. Because you don't want to get stuck with Mitchell Trubisky again, and then, he doesn't produce or he struggles again, and then this whole cycle continues, and then we waste this Chicago Bears defense that we had.
I agree with you, Yusuf. Yeah. No, I agree with you, but I think it's just not realistic.
Right.
Lack of cap space. So I'm living in the realistic world over here.
I'm living in unrealistic goals.
So let me recap this and make sure I understand.
Can I say one thing?
Yeah.
Wait, let me recap this and just let me know if I'm wrong. So Obaid is telling me that next year, Mitchell Trubisky is going to be the starting quarterback. And for what we have available, that's the best option. Yusuf is saying the Bears have to go and find money somehow to go get a better quarterback, because with our defense, we have a short window where I do agree with him. I think we have a championship defense, and that window is only open for so long. The back half of this year is I feel like the defense just stopped caring. But in the beginning of the year, they were dominating. And then, Danielle, it sounds like you want to get rid of the GM, the coach, the quarterback.
I didn't say the quarterback. Wait a second. Wait. I never said the quarterback. I agree with Obaid. I say bring Trubisky back. I say you draft a quarterback in the third, fourth round and you kind of groom him. And I say you prioritize the offensive line. I think those are the steps that you take in coming next year. I think that's going to catapult us in the next coming years, because I agree with, I disagree with Ibrahim when you said that the defense is, championship defense. We're not even top 10 anymore. So I disagree with that.
Well, that's the last couple games, but I still think we have the talent and,
well, they're not living up to the talent. Mac is, I think he's great, but is he the top 2 rusher in the NFL? I don't know. Is Quinn worth the money that we paid him? No. Who else is on there? Roquan Smith is there. Trevathan is not good.
Hold on. No. Hold up. This is not a fair assessment either, because in the beginning,
no one's been injured.
No.
Hicks is there.
No. But I'm saying, look, there's wear and tear throughout the season, right? The amount of time the Chicago Bears defense has had to have been on the field because their offense has been 3 and out multiple times. The Bears defense has honestly probably played an extra game or 2 compared to other defenses in the league. So that's just fatigue. They're still
a lot of snaps,
really good. They're still really
good, but they're not tired, dude. 5-7 where you need to.
No, they are really good. You don't think they were top 5 in the beginning of the season?
They might have been, but they're not playing like it now. They're definitely not playing like it.
No, because they're fatigued. Help me out, Ibrahim. Come on.
Danielle, I agree with Yusuf. They're good until they play Aaron Rodgers or Drew Brees or any good quarterback in NFC. They're good until then, all right? Then give them some credit, all right? It's ridiculous.
No, I disagree with you.
The Bears almost
to be a championship this year. To be a championship team, I feel like you need to be a top 5 defense, and they're not top 5.
Can I point something out? Look at
they almost beat the Saints, and Peyton Manning almost has 4 Super Bowls, so we're all very close to getting
there, guys.
So,
I do got to say this: a lot of the game has shifted, right? The game has changed a lot since we were kids. You used to need like a top 5 defense to get you there. Nowadays, it's a passing game, right? You can't hand check people. You can't do a lot of things that you used to do. But I think with a top 10, even top 12 defense, if you have a competent quarterback and you're dedicated to the run game, I think you got enough to make some noise in the playoffs. Now, you might not beat a Aaron Rodgers, you might not beat a Patrick Mahomes, but sometimes you just need the ball to bounce your way, right? Nick Foles, he won a Super Bowl 2-3 years ago, and he was going against guys much better than him. And it was just the luck of the draw. It's like Obaid said, it's one game, win or go home, and anything can happen in the playoffs. The big key here is how do you actually get to the playoffs as the Bears when we haven't been a playoff bound team for most of the last decade.
Exactly.
One last thing I'd like to bring up before we can hopefully conclude this topic is I know Yusuf is really wanting to get a new quarterback this year, but there's 9 available free agents next year. Let me tell you the 9 in no specific order, okay? You got Dak Prescott, you got Phillip Rivers, Mitch Trubisky, Jameis Winston, famous Jameis, Mr. Crab Legs, Cam Newton, Ryan Fitzpatrick, Jacoby Brissett, Tyrod Taylor, and Mr. Ginger himself, Andy Dalton. So who of those is worth having on the Bears except Dak Prescott?
Fitzmagic.
You would want a 39-year-old quarterback.
Fitzmagic is one I would agree.
Hey, man.
He's 38, 39 years old. You're not thinking.
Tom Brady is like 87.
Yeah. And
come on, guys.
Dude, come on. Look at what he did with Miami. He's a good.
I know.
He's a solid. Listen,
I love Fitzmagic.
Right. And
you're not going to get Fitzmagic for 19 games.
What?
You're not getting Fitzmagic for 19 games.
That's fine. You have Mitchell Trubisky. So
you're signing both? I mean, all I'm saying is you're going to want, aside from, honestly, on that list, Dak Prescott is the one that is better than Trubisky. I don't even like Phillip Rivers anymore. Phillip Rivers on this team, they would probably win 4 games. They would have 4 wins because, and that's not a gripe at Rivers. Absolutely no. He has 0 mobility at this age. Mm-hmm. He is not built for today's game. That's the thing. Trubisky is built, no matter whether we like it or not. He's built for today's NFL. He's mobile. That's it.
He has all the physical tools for sure. And Danielle, thank you for raising your hand.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I want to make one point. I think Yusuf, I agree. I think Fitzpatrick would be good, but I think one thing we don't take away as Bears fan is I think Trubisky, the one reason he looks so bad is because of the offensive line. I was reading a stat. They said that the Bears are tied for the third least amount of pocket time, giving only 2.3 seconds. I think that is one of the main reasons why the Bears struggle and their passing game struggles. So, I mean, like Obaid had mentioned, if you bring in these guys beside Prescott, they might be a little bit better, but is it worth giving that money and just keeping Trubisky for next year and kind of building and grooming a quarterback that you get from the draft? And I think Nagy's kind of hurt Trubisky's confidence, which is why I feel like, and he hasn't played to his strengths, kind of having him just stay in the pocket and not rolling out until the past couple of games. So what I say is, let's move forward from Nagy and Pace, bring in a coach that is actually a offensive guru, because we were told that, Nagy's an offensive guru, but the Bears have struggled. They've been in the bottom tier for the past couple of years in offensive stats. So I say definitely. let's keep Trubisky. I agree that, one time he looks good, one day he doesn't. But right now we're not making the Super Bowl in the next couple of years anyway, unless we kind of have a good offensive line. I think that's what we need to prioritize as a Bears organization moving forward, because a good offensive line can make a relatively capable quarterback look really good.
So Danielle, I know we're wrapping up this topic, but real quick, you didn't talk about a QB. You talked about a head coach. Who do you want to come in to replace Nagy?
That's a good question. I don't really have anyone, and I haven't researched anything yet. But I mean, I want someone that's who says that? It's like, who says that?
Wait, I can't hear.
I haven't researched I said I haven't researched my coaches, so I don't know.
Bring back Lovey.
Bring back Lucky.
Yeah, Lovey's
I'm not getting into this. I'm not getting into this.
We need a young offensive guy. Nagy was supposed to be that guy, but he has struggled. His play calling has been atrocious, in my opinion. And we need someone young that can come in and be good with the quarterback. And I think Trubisky, if he has the right quarterback, the coach around him, I think he'll be average, which is okay with the great defense to succeed, in my opinion.
These get degrees, right?
But one thing is, hey, we got a kicker now, so that's good.
That's true.
Oh my God!
Only if we had him in 2018.
I know, man.
Can I just make a note real quick? Obaid said "we" when referencing the Bears.
We're all from Chicago. I'm not rooting for them. Stop it! Don't put words in my mouth. That's what she said.
All right. So Yusuf, I'll let you. You didn't get a chance to wrap up the Bears conversation. What are your final thoughts before we move on to the next topic?
I agree with Danielle that the coaching has been one of the bigger problems, especially the play calling. with Matt Nagy, and I don't know if it was stubbornness or what, but keeping Mitchell Trubisky in the pocket, I think, was not the move, especially because he's so mobile. Like Ubaid was saying, he rolls out, and that's kind of where he makes most of his success. And now I think finally they're kind of catering to what he does. So that to me makes me a little bit optimistic, but very cautiously optimistic, because I am a Chicago Bears fan at the end of the day. But ultimately, after this season is done, I do think, management needs to change, coaching needs to change. And then the only difference that me and Danielle probably have is I don't think Mitchell Trubisky is the guy moving forward. You have an aging defense, and if there's a veteran quarterback available in the offseason, you try to pick him up. And try to get some receivers too.
You're saying throw all your chips in, go hard into next season, and see what happens.
Exactly.
So are you saying trade your draft picks as well for that?
Mortgage the future.
How many draft picks do we even have left?
Exactly. Exactly.
So just go big or go home, right?
Alrighty.
Also, I want to say one thing before we close.
I already cut you off, bro. No more.
Nagy hasn't been calling the play calls the last 5 games. I think that has also been an impact on the Bears and the offensive success that we've had in the past couple of games. So that's more of a reason why we need to let Nagy go, in my opinion.
That's a great point. So I think let's wrap up the conversation about the Bears.
Thanks for listening, guys. Stay tuned for the next episode of the BenchMop Scrubs podcast, where we're going to discuss the NFL, its landscape, our predictions, and who we think is going to win the MVP. Thank you. Catch you guys later.